Hi everyone, this is Professor Hai Nguyen, and I want to welcome you to my History 17A course at Evergreen Valley College. And in this video, I just want to give you a quick overview of the content, right, of American history that we are going to cover in this class. Yes, we're going to be covering American history from the beginning of Native American societies before the arrival of Christopher Columbus, and ultimately in at the year 1877, which is the year that Reconstruction came to an end. And there's a lot of themes that we're going to be covering throughout this class, if you will. But before we talk about some of those themes, I just want to let you know, look, it wasn't too, well, actually, it's been quite a long time since I've been in American History 17A course, but it wasn't, I would say, too long ago that I was just a freshman, at De Anza College, and I remember I had to register to take a 17A course in American history, and I think I can already see the faces on you guys, the expression on you guys' faces that, again, you're not a fan of history and you find American history dreadful, right? Because especially this time period as well, because what are we talking about, guys? I mean, we're talking about the American revolutions. It's guys like Thomas Jefferson and George Washington. It's a bunch of old white guys wearing powder wigs and not, knee-high beaters and yeah, ruffled shirts and everything like that. So I understand, right? I understand that you're probably asking the question, why are we taking this class again? Didn't I take American history back in high school, right? Wasn't that enough torture already, if you will? So I understand your apprehension about as to why you have to take another American history course. And even when I became an American history major, if you will, it wasn't really until by the end of my grad school years that I rediscovered my love for American history during the colonial period, because again, it wasn't my fascination. It wasn't my topic of interest, but I was very fortunate enough to have an advisor and have a mentor and an expert on colonial America that really sparks my interest, if you will. And as a result, I'm hoping that this class, the material and content that I have, you will find relevant as well. So let me just share with you how ultimately, what I think American history, why this time period is so fascinating. So I want to share with you in terms of, this is why I have these two somewhat paintings as part of the class homepage initially, if you will. So if you look at the first painting, this is Washington crossing the Delaware River, right? And if you look at it, yes, it's a very magnificent and glorious, somewhat interpretation of that secret attack that George Washington was planning, and that ultimately this is where he became a hero, right? A savior of America, if you will, right? A very glorious image of what the American Revolution is supposed to be. Now, if you look at this image, there's actually a lot of details wrong with this image. Is that just some quick points, guys, if you really think about it, if it's a secret mission, then why the hell is he doing it in broad daylight, right? Doesn't kind of make sense. So it's supposed to be happening at night. That's what, if you're trying to attack somebody's secret, you want to go at night where it's dark, they don't see you coming. But here George Washington it's in broad daylight, the sun is in the background, if you will. It looks like it's like a solar eclipse of some sort. And then on top of that, if you look at it, it looks like there's like icebergs, right? Which is kind of uncommon because to American rivers, if you will, because icebergs shouldn't be there. It should be out in the ocean, not so much in the river in particular. So yeah, the iceberg. So I wasn't sure if this Emmanuel gentleman himself was, looking out somewhat the ocean or whatever. Maybe he was watching Titanic. But yeah, there's a lot of iceberg. But that just kind of add you the drama, if you will. And also on top of that, if you look at it, George Washington, he has this very somewhat glorious stance, right? Like very heroic. I mean, he's standing on his bow. He's leading his men. So I'm not sure if he's leading his men or he is trying to sell us Captain Morgan rum up in here. But anyways, making long story short, the reason why I'm sharing this painting, because again, the colonial period and the time period that we're going to be looking at, right? The colonial settlement era, and then we have the American Revolution period, and then ultimately we're making our way up to Jacksonian democracy. This is where American democracy is on the rise, and then ultimately You have America going to war itself over the during the Civil War, if you will. But time has passed, and the problem with more time is that people tend to forget that history. And as a result, we tend to glorify, and ultimately there are certain people in America, they want to deny certain things from happening, if you will. And ultimately, I think this is what the class is going to be about. I like to think that Evergreen Valley College hired me because they wanted a different perspective. They wanted American history from the lens of an immigrant, from a lens of an Asian American, and also from a lens of ultimately of a person of color, right? How we view American history, if you will. Now, I'm not saying that ultimately that's all we're going to be looking at, but I do want to admit my biases. I do want to admit my self-interest here. At the end of the day, look, no matter what your teachers tell you that they're supposed to be impartial, they don't have interest in the matter of you, they're lying to you. At the end of the day, historians, we are subjected to our time period. We are somewhat subjected to contemporary society, and also we are humans as well, right? So what I'm hoping is that in this class, what I'm hoping is that we have a more inclusive, we have a more diverse, and also a more objective and more accurate understanding of what American history was, right? So that's the reason why I share with you this recent painting that was done, right, of Washington's Crossing, right? That ultimately is to give a more accurate depiction of what that night was supposed to be. And again, if it's supposed to be a secret attack, then you do it at night. Hence the dark, somewhat background, if you will. And if you look at the boat, right, that is actually a military boat. It's a flat boat. It allows for more men to be on the boat, if you will. Whereas this boat, it looks like this is the boat that you go on a speed dating, or like, I don't know, like a date that your friends hook you up with to someone at like a blind date, if you will, at a park, and you guys go canoeing, all this other business, right? No, it's a military boat. And then on top of that, right, ultimately, there are no iceberg, if you will, right? It is somewhat a river that they are crossing. However, that is not to say that ultimately Washington can't be the hero. He can still be the hero, guys. He can still be the hero in this narrative, but we just want to make it more accurate. We want to make it more inclusive, right? And we want to have a broader range of characters, right? So in this class, yes, guys, we're going to be looking at American history, Native American societies, right? Of course, Native Americans are going to be a huge part of the class, if you will, right? We are also going to look at settlement era, right? We are going to look at somewhat the 13 colonies, if you will, but we're going to be making our way up to the American Revolution. And of course, we have to talk about slavery, guys. Can't talk about this time period without slavery, if you will, right? The impact of the transatlantic slave trade, how it contributed to the American economy, right? And the rise of the American Republic, right? Everything is interrelated, everything is correlated, and everything has a relationship with one another, right? So those are the characters that we have, right? We have the founding fathers, we have the early European settlers, but we also have the Native Americans and the land that they live on, right? And then ultimately African slaves and their American descendants, right? Providing the labor, right? In North America, if you will. But we can't forget also the ladies, right? The women themselves, right? That ultimately made the sacrifices, right? Contributed to the American Revolution and to the American Republic, but yet were excluded to participate in it, right? So those are the range of characters that we're going to be looking at. Those are the diverse tasks that we're going to be looking at. So if you are interested in looking at American history from what I would call a bottom-down perspective, right? We are looking at American history through the lens of many different perspectives, right? African-American slaves, right? Native American indigenous groups, right? Women, right? In American history, and also the founding fathers, right? And the settlers and the European somewhat settlers themselves. We can see that the story of America is more complicated, it's more complex, but it can still be a great story, right? It can be a great story because why? We want to highlight, we want to recognize, and we want to celebrate the contributions, right? The contributions of all of those groups and how they have made a place for themselves in America and have made this country what it is today. America would not be the most powerful country on earth if it wasn't for those contributions. So in this class, we want to acknowledge and recognize those contributions, but we also want to be upfront and we want to be honest with our American history, if you will, right? So I believe in the module number 9, I'm gonna have you read the secession statement from the Confederate States to explain to you why they seceded from the Union, if you will, because again, it just seems to be with more time, Americans get more confused about their history or they forget about their history. So now you have people walking around in America and they think the Civil War was not about slavery and it's about states' rights, right? That you just had the state of Texas the other day, I'm sorry, in 2019 declared that ultimately they will soon, and the key word there is soon, guys, start to teach that the Civil War, that slavery was a main cause. Now, in this class, right, we are going to confront some of those issues, if you will, and we are going to try to have an honest assessment of what Americans should be. So I want you to read the sources and understand what American history should be about. But I'm hoping that ultimately you understand what the emphasis of this class is about, and you understand what time period we're going to cover, right, from the beginning all the way up through somewhat the Reconstruction era by 1877. But I'm hoping you understand who I am as a historian, as your instructor, and ultimately what the class emphasis is going to be about. So that's why every single module, guys, we're going to try to look at American history from different lenses, right, if you will. Because again, what makes this country a great country is that people of all different color from all around the world have come to this place and they have contributed, right? And ultimately, unfortunately, not everybody have had a fair shake, if you will. There are inequalities in America, but I think the first step we need to do is we need to acknowledge that all of those groups, right, contributed to American history, and that they are interlinked, intertwined, and ultimately they correlate with one another, right? So I hope you understand what ultimately the content and what the focus of this class will be about. So in the next video, I will explain to you what the class entails in terms of the assignments, in terms of the class requirement will be about. This video was just to let you know what the themes are, what my focus is, and what my interest is when it comes to American history. So I hope you stick around. Thanks, guys, and I'll see you in the orientation video. Thank you.